Welcome, everybody. Thanks for downloading or streaming another episode of Wigs for Wigs. I'm Joe Cook, joined once again by Bill Venezia. We're on Zoom again today, Bill. So always a questionable proposition with some of the Wi-Fi issues that we have here at the school, but we'll make it work. How you doing today, Bill?
Very good, Joe. Very good. I have a good fun fact to know and tell. It's based on what was in the news this morning about the South Dakota governor, Kristi Noem, who basically, I'm sure, is on Trump's shortlist to be, vice. Did you know that she was 1990s South Dakota snow queen? And why was she in the news today? Because she went to a Texas dentist who does a great job of perfecting people's smiles. So she left her own state to go to a dentist in Texas to make sure that smile's up to snuff, because you know as well as I do, if Donald Trump is going to pick you, you best be telegenic and you best be something that's marketable. And she is an attractive woman, albeit. I'm not so sure what a political.
Not everybody gets to be Snow Queen. So
Snow Queen, South Dakota. Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one.
As big as it gets in South Dakota, I think. Apologies to any of our listeners in South Dakota. I don't think we have too many.
No, I don't think
too many of the cows are listening to our podcast.
Miners. It's a big mines and oil too, I'm sure.
Well, speaking of which, as of last night, here it is. We have it. The presidential rematch that everybody says they don't want, and yet an awful lot of people cast ballots for Donald Trump and Joe Biden in primaries to give us this rematch. They both officially clinched the nominations of their parties last night.
To me, it's reminiscent of like the machine politics of Hudson County. Basically, if you're the organization's pick, if you're an incumbent, or I think to a certain degree, you could classify Donald Trump as an incumbent, having been a former president, and that he's, both have strangleholds over the Democratic and Republican Party, or what's left of either. I do think that, if any of the polling is to be trusted, and I think with Trump, that's something that's not always doesn't come out true, that there's still, based on what Nikki Haley had drawn, a good portion of the Republican Party that or what's left of the Republican Party that will be never Trumpers and won't vote for him. I think too that, it remains to be seen if the ticket of Kennedy and Rogers or Jesse Ventura, if they're going to pull votes from either Trump or basically Biden.
That is an important factor. I don't know which one of them they really hurt more. I mean, third-party candidates very rarely do anything but hurt another candidate from one of the major parties. But which one really is going to have more support drawn by Robert Kennedy Jr.? I mean, let's say, and I don't believe he actually would do this, that he actually does pick Aaron Rodgers as his running mate. Apparently in the news that he's on some kind of short list. That means that RFK Jr. is going all in on running as the anti-vaccination guy, right?
Yeah.
Because RFK Jr. in his career has also been an environmental activist. But if he's picking Aaron Rodgers, that means he's going all in on the anti-vax stuff as what he's running on. Is anybody who's going to vote for the anti-vax guy an otherwise Joe Biden voter? I don't see people that voted for Joe Biden in 2020 going and voting for RFK Jr. on the anti-vaccination platform. Wouldn't that more likely be a Trump person?
I would think, although, Trump is like a chameleon with regard to vaccinations. I mean, when it suits him, and it depends on who he's speaking to at the time. You know, so, and by the way, I had to look up this morning if Jesse Ventura was still with us, you know, on the right
I
side of
honestly
the.
wasn't sure either. Is he?
Yeah, he is. He's still alive. He's still kicking. You know,
For some reason I had a feel, I thought he died.
I kind of thought he did
So
too.
there's that thing called the Mandela effect that people thought that Nelson Mandela died in the 1980s and didn't realize he was still alive when he came out of prison and ultimately became president of South Africa. Is actually called the Mandela effect. I thought that Jesse
You know,
Ventura
and
died.
God bless him. I'm
I
glad.
don't know who died. That I thought it was him, but somebody
I-
did somewhere along the way.
I haven't heard from Jesse in a long time. I mean, didn't Jesse did some commercials, I think, a few years back for the Pillow Guy. You know, he has those roots in
again,
Minnesota.
I thought somewhere
kind of
along the
remember
line.
that.
I don't
You
know
know.
who did.
I don't know what he believes in. I don't, you know, I have no idea.
Anti-government, it's the same he ran for governor on.
Yeah.
Kind of just that disruptor, anti-government message.
Well, it's a good thing that the gentleman's still with us. I wouldn't begrudge him being on the right side of the lawn, but you know, it's interesting. It's interesting, the whole thing.
You know because you've seen the documentary, My 6 Degrees of Separation from Jesse Ventura.
I didn't see it. No, I've never seen it. No.
Because you saw Anytown USA, the documentary about
No,
the election.
Joe, I am without a VCR. And I'm trying to find a friend who has a VCR so I can watch it.
Oh, well,
we'll talk about it.
For our listeners out there, there's a documentary. It's called Anytown USA. It won actually some awards at film festivals and things. It follows the mayoral election in my hometown of Pagoda back in 2003. And I, as a high schooler, I was going door to door and all with the incumbent mayor who was running for re-election. So I'm featured in it quite a bit. I was actually mic'd up for it every day, but I wasn't 18 yet. My parents didn't sign the release, so none of my audio was in the documentary. But I am there, visually all throughout it. But there was an independent candidate in that race who was a write-in candidate. It was kind of a bizarre story, but he ultimately hired a campaign manager who had made his name being Jesse Ventura's campaign manager in the governor's race in Minnesota when Jesse Ventura ran. So that's my 6 degrees of separation from Jesse Ventura.
Jesse Ventura.
I worked in the same little local election that his campaign manager worked in.
Who was the then mayor of Pagoda?
Steve Lonigan, who was running for re-election.
Who had run a number
of times. Went on to try to run for governor. He also ran against Cory Booker for Senate. He was a Republican nominee 1 year for Senate, and lost to Cory Booker. But yeah, I was going door to door with Steve Lonigan.
You're back on, just for a second. Yeah.
Steve Lonigan's a bit of a character.
Is he still with us?
He is, yeah. He's but I mean, part of what, and they didn't know this going into making this documentary, but Steve Lonigan is legally blind. That was part of my job going door to door with him, was just to kind of, help him not trip over anything and find where he's going. Okay. But he's legally blind. The Democratic candidate that year was a former councilman. His name was Fred Pesci. He looked like somebody who was straight out of being an extra in the Godfather or The Sopranos. Very, very, stereotypical Italian kind of, looks like Luca Brasi in Godfather. And then you had this independent writing candidate who also was legally blind, he was a motivational speaker. He'd had a brain tumor that caused him to lose sight at some point in his life. So you had two legally blind people running against each other, and this, mafia.
Hey, you know what mafia means? It means Mothers and Fathers Italian Association.
Yeah, but they didn't know that going into it. They made it about the mayor's race in Pagoda just because one of the filmmakers was a former councilman in Pagoda who then went into the film industry. So they just figured, okay, small town, we'll make the documentary about this place. But then also, it's this wonderful cast of characters. I used to show it when I used to teach a politics class. And this wasn't kids that knew, the people in town and all. I would kind of give some backstory because I knew the people, but it's just such a wild cast of characters that were involved in this race.
It sounds like it's kind of whet my appetite. I still have that.
I think you know one of the people who ran for council for the Republican side.
Yes,
George
George.
Who's also an educator.
Yes, Union City. He's my friend's cousin's husband.
Yeah,
George Shahu.
Yep, yeah. He was running for council on the Republican side. So,
it's funny
for anybody out there. If you're interested in politics, it's a really entertaining look at a local election for a mayor's race in a small town in New Jersey. And you'll happen to be able to see your favorite podcaster pop up in the background as a 16-year-old, going door to door with Mayor Lonigan and working in the.
Find it online. I'm going to look for it on YouTube.
I think you actually still have my DVD copy of it.
I still have it. Have it. I purposely.
I think it actually is available on YouTube. I think it is.
Yeah. And Joe, what's the name of it again?
Anytown, USA.
Anytown, USA. You know what that sounds like? It sounds like one of those Christopher Guest movies.
Yeah.
Best in Show. Or with, and it also it seems to be like with a camera, a handheld camera. It could be akin to like The Office, that TV series, The Office.
But it's very entertaining. My brother just had people visiting from out of state. They happened to just pop it in and watch it, and the people were laughing hysterically at the people in my hometown in Pagoda. It's wild how crazy people get over politics in this tiny town that I come from.
You know what? In a tiny town like Pagoda, yes, but it's symptomatic of New Jersey. And while we're at it, I just want to relay a story about where I grew up in Jersey City. And a similar situation, too. It was like the Irish controlled the city at the time. It was the Kenny machine who succeeded the Frank Hague machine in 1949. And by the way, Kenny was for the Hague machine. So he was smart. He wanted to just be the head of the Democratic Party. So he was the kingmaker, but whoever ran for mayor. And Jersey City at the time had the commission form of government. So you had 5 commissioners for different departments. Those 5 people elected who would be mayor. So the current mayor in the late 50s, early 60s was Bernard Berry, good Irishman, standard bearer, as we're coming up on St. Patrick's Day. He was running for re-election, and he was running against a guy who had tried a couple of times previous, the Honorable Thomas Gangemi. Now, Gangemi was a produce guy, and he might have had some dubious connections. Might have. He spoke broken English.
In The Godfather, anytime that fruit shows up, somebody is about to get shot. That's one of the.
Yeah, I mean, so he toppled the Kenny machine. He was elected mayor in 1962. He beat Bernard Berry, who was trying to be reelected. So little did he had a secret that nobody knew about. He thought nobody knew about. So now up until 62, Jersey City did not have a Columbus Day parade. Now, Gangemi, full of Italian-American pride, he decided that he was going to go get a distant relative of Christopher Columbus from Genoa, Italy, who happened to be a policeman, to come and be the first Grand Marshal of Jersey City's first Columbus Day parade. So he tried to leave with this group to go get the guy and escort him back. Couldn't leave the country. Why couldn't he leave the country? Because his secret just popped out. He wasn't a citizen. He was born in Italy. So he came back. People at customs who owed their jobs to the Kenny machine basically notified John V. Kenny, who made a trip to 280 Grove Street in Jersey City and went up to the mayor's office unannounced, sat down with him and said, "Tom, you have a problem." And he said, either you resign as mayor because we know you're not a citizen, or this will be in all the local papers tomorrow and statewide papers. So because obviously one of the conditions of being mayor of Jersey City that you had to be a citizen of the United States. Tom had to resign, and that led to the coronation of Thomas Whalen, who was this foot soldier for Kenny, who ultimately would be one of the Hudson Eight in 1969 and go to jail for 9. He had a 10-year sentence for stealing millions from the Model Cities program. But you can't make this stuff up. You just really can't, And in fact, it didn't end with Thomas Gangemi Sr. His son, Buddy, who took over the family produce business, who was a very handsome, tall, over the produce business, but he also wanted to be mayor of Jersey City. Now, he was a citizen, and he ran twice for mayor, and unfortunately didn't do too well each time. He was beaten by Paul Jordan, who was the reformer who came in, who ultimately fizzled out when he wanted to run for governor. As if anybody from Jersey City, who was the mayor of Jersey City, from Hudson County, could be elected to that position, a governor.
Somebody's trying to go in the opposite direction of that now with Jim McGreevey, who left the ship in disgrace and is now trying to become the mayor of Jersey City.
I got a feeling, and this is just a sense of the town, that, he's all the bigwigs in the Democratic Party, whether they be from Bayonne, Union City, the mayor of Union City is also a state senator. Those guys have gotten up in back of McGreevey, and the only reason is because they want to dominate the county, where normally the mayor of Jersey City is the dominant player in the county. So they figure, okay, if we all back him, now he does have the backing of all these mayors and state people, because they want to cut up the fiefdom, and that's what it is. But the truth of the matter is I don't think that that's going to play well in the city, because he's really a carpetbagger. You know what I mean? He actually was born in Jersey City, and then his family moved out. I think his father was a retired Jersey City cop. I'm not sure where he was, a police officer. And he's kind of playing on that. Yeah. But I don't think he has any chance, as well as the current mayor, who's staying out of the race.
Well, trying to run for governor, yeah. But also we were talking, you said earlier that kind of, the parties kind of, if you're the favorite, there's very little that can be done. You're going to steamroll and all if the establishment supports you. But actually for the Democratic side, because we have a Senate race coming up in New Jersey also.
Right.
It seems that Mrs. Murphy, our current first lady in our state, was favored by most of the county chairs and all. But if you look at polling and all right now, Andy Kim, the congressman, is actually way ahead of her, running a bit.
People don't like that heavy-handedness, and it doesn't play well, I don't think. I guess people currying favor to somebody who thinks that he's got presidential aspirations, and that's our current governor. It's ironic too that Mrs. Murphy, no, that's an impossibility. Mrs. Murphy basically didn't become a Democrat, except for 9 years ago when her husband hit.
Donald Trump only became a Republican a couple of years before running.
Yeah, well, they have that in common.
Trump's always Democrats until. We've just spent 20 minutes talking about everything but there was one issue that I did want to talk about concerning the former president's court battles, that I found it ironic that his legal team wants to suspend the New York case in the Manhattan district attorney, when they have already waived immunity with that. That issue was settled a while ago by Trump and his attorneys. So I think Trump looks at the legal battles to a certain degree as a political vehicle. He can make points with that, especially that way. Yeah, I think that's it. Except now he's getting nervous. And I remember when we had Ed DeFazio on, he thought that was the weakest case. Yeah, I don't know if Trump is really nervous about the New York case.
Well, why would he want it? Why would he want to postpone the whole thing until the Supreme Court weighs in? He wants to have this logjam of cases, it seems. That seems to be a strategy where you
Well,
know,
I think he's just throwing every egg in the basket that he's going to win the presidency and can just
yeah,
make them all go away. Um, it's really just a run out the clock, four corner situation. Um,
yeah, he's definitely a Dean Smith boy.
I think that's all it is. I don't think it's that he's actually worried about the case. Um, although he certainly has reason to be, especially again,
Well,
the New York one probably is the weakest one in terms of guaranteeing a conviction and just whether was this case worth bringing the way that it was. I mean, out of the four, I'm not saying it's not worth it, but out of the four, it's the least serious, right? I mean, the others are trying to overthrow the government, essentially stealing classified documents and doing God knows what with them, and trying to fix an election. I mean, those are much more serious
oh, absolutely. But
in just a holistic way than
I think a little differently about that, since he's trying to basically prevent his former fixer, Michael Cohen, from testifying. And now think about it. Here's a guy that, for the very same purposes, doing Trump's bidding, was sent to jail. Not only was he sent to jail, there was a little vindictiveness in it. When he was released, he was thrown back into jail by Trump's Justice Department. It's an interesting case. I'm sure, I'm sure that basically there's some trepidation there.
They don't have to keep Michael Cohen from testifying. He's somebody who's been convicted of perjury. Cross-examine him. That's what happens in a trial.
Yeah. Well, if he's
bring that up, that this guy is a convicted liar, and put doubt in the minds of the jury. That's what a lawyer does. I don't.
Well, you have to remember too. I mean, Trump has like fifth echelon attorneys now. None of them have distinguished themselves.
Alina Habba.
I mean, where do you think she's going to work as a legal clerk after this is all over? I mean, she could either be a legal clerk or attorney general.
She'll get a show on Fox News. When Judge Jeanine Pirro retires from Fox News, she'll get her own show on Fox.
Yeah, that's true. There's a spot for her.
She's on camera and she has pseudo legal credentials. That's.
And by the way, it's the roster of attorneys seem to be basically those relegated to public defenders. That's what it's been. I mean, though he is seemingly in tough spot with money. Now, one other thing that came regarding Trump's legal issues is where I know that the gentleman who runs who's the gentleman that runs Tesla?
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. Elon Musk says he's not donating to either candidate, but did he sign a promise?
I think he worded that very carefully.
I know he did. Yeah.
He's not donating directly to a candidate, which would be FEC limits and all of $2,900 and all. He could certainly donate to super PACs that are supportive of candidates, and that's not donating to the candidate.
Yeah. So I took that with a grain of salt. I mean, I'm sure, that basically.
I don't think anybody was worried about Elon Musk donating $2,900.
Yeah. But 93 million?
Under FEC regulations from McCain-Feingold. I think it's more concerning that he might donate lots of money to super PACs and more dark money places that are supportive of Donald Trump.
The Group for Growth, and I'm not sure I'm saying that right. It's the group that gave Nikki Haley about $70 million to her campaign.
Yeah.
They're out there floating around now. And I know that Trump has met with them because basically he's strapped for cash and he's looking to basically do something there. Maybe that's what made him talk about the potential for doing some cuts to Social Security.
Again, according to Donald Trump and his supporters, isn't he supposed to be some super billionaire?
I thought that was an interesting statement.
if Trump really is the super billionaire that he and his supporters claim he is, then why does he need all this financial help?
Well, obviously he's not,
Yeah,
and truthfully, guys like that don't get any, that's OPM, it's other people's money.
Yeah.
I will say that Musk basically has put his money where his mouth is with a lot of things, obviously with X, with the former Twitter, he paid a pretty penny for
Yeah, well, yeah.
taking a beating, you know.
Well, I think also ever since he's taken over Twitter, it's become more clear what some of his social views are. I'll just put it
Oh
that
yeah,
way. That
I mean, yeah, I
he's
find it.
he's definitely a product of apartheid era South Africa, where he comes from.
Oh yeah, yeah, and tremendously appears to be anti-Semitic. Although I find it kind of funny, hypocritical that he would then go to basically talk to rabbis and people from Israel, and pledge his support to them. It comes out of both sides of his mouth. I mean, tell me who your friends are. I'll tell you what you are. That's what the nuns used to tell us.
That's like Trump supporters who think that because American Muslims might not be happy with Joe Biden's handling of the war in Israel, think that they're going to suddenly vote for Donald Trump.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Because you did so much for Muslims. I mean,
it's interesting what polling talks about with Latinos. That last poll I saw, that Latinos were basically tipping towards Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I do think there's something there with regard to the immigration problem that
Immigration.
Biden has.
It's the same thing with polling showing black men shifting towards Trump. I think that's very much a immigration issue, really.
Yeah.
You look at some at the big cities, there's a lot of tension between African American communities and immigrant Latin American communities in a lot of these big cities. It's economic, it's other things also, but I think a lot of it has to do with immigration.
Well, and you have a candidate like Trump who basically says, "Come and follow me, you'll be prosperous like I am," which is a myth. But also, too, it's typical. The philosophy behind Trump's campaign is one that it's a campaign of grievance. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be mad. It's okay to blame the other.
Yeah,
and that
fits
right into it.
Campaign.
Yeah, I mean, the immigration. Immigration
is a serious issue. There's no.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
But you can't say it's a serious issue, and then when a serious effort is made to do something to fix it by a bipartisan group, then tank it just because I want to be able to run on this issue. That's not the issue seriously.
But it fits in with the MO. It's not about the country. It's about him, plain and simple. I wonder how Langford feels. I mean, I wonder when Langford goes into the ballot box if he's actually going to even vote for him.
I mean, it's interesting because during the State of the Union, when Joe Biden was talking about it, you could see they cut to Langford, and you can see him nodding along and saying that's true about some of the things that Biden was saying, and he had to know the camera would be on him when Biden was talking about the immigration stuff. I mean, this was the most serious. Honestly, this was the most serious effort to try to find some kind of legislative solution to immigration issues since George W. Bush tried to put together a serious, comprehensive immigration reform package, and it also got killed by the right wing of the Republican Party.
Well, when you think about it, think about George W. Bush from Texas, and this is one of the problems with that bill. But I thought the bill should have been passed. It's a crime that it wasn't even brought up.
Got to do something. You can't just
absolutely. And that was a reasonable bipartisan approach, which could have helped a great deal. But getting back to Bush, part of the issue is that there's no penalties for people to hire illegals, none, and basically that the people in Texas, there's no way those people running businesses wanted the labor force to be curtailed by immigration, and it's kind of sad. I mean, if you want to punish people, then punish those people who employ illegals. It's sad. I mean, there wasn't a job market here, and there is. And by the way, the economy getting back to where it was has been aided by that workforce, because no one's going to tell me that there are Native Americans that basically will do the type of jobs that immigrants are available to them, and they take advantage of, plain and simple. We don't have enough, plumbers, electricians, carpenters, landscaping, we don't have enough people, and you're not going to get Native born Americans to basically get involved in that work. It's
Well,
sad.
2 years from now, that'll be taken care of because there'll be no more landscaping in the Southwest once the Colorado River dries up completely.
That's a sad thought.
There'll be no more lawns or anything. We can solve that problem.
So getting back to the State of the Union address, what are your thoughts on Biden's performance?
I know it's gotten rave reviews. I thought it was good. I didn't think it was extraordinary. He's not an extraordinary speaker. We all know that.
No.
I think he did what he needed to do for whatever that's worth. I don't know how many people are watching the State of the Union, to be honest, these days. I don't know if undecided voters who are concerned about his age are watching this speech in late February, early March, whatever date it was given, and deciding, oh yeah, definitely, I'm good with voting for him now, 8 months from now.
No, I think it's too soon. I think he had to reverse a downward trend.
And I think he did that, but I'm not sure about the long-term election impact of
I honestly believe that, there should be debates, and the two of them should get in the ring together to hammer that out. It remains to be seen how that's going to work.
I think the MAGA wing of the Republican Party, which is increasingly the Republican Party, once again embarrassed themselves for any serious person watching what happened with Marjorie Taylor Greene, and which, by the way, she broke the law. You're not allowed to wear a hat or campaign materials in the Congress, and she did both for Donald Trump. So where's all the faux outrage at that? She broke the rules. Why isn't she being censured by the Congress? But they embarrass themselves. They are what they are. I don't know how anybody takes them seriously, and then that response. Can we talk about the response?
Oh my God. I think
by Senator Britt. What was that?
I
cut out for a second there, Bill, but what?
I have no idea. That boggles the mind. How inept can they be that they picked this? What is she, 34 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was her political career, going up in smoke. She crashed and burned. It's I don't get it. I don't get it.
I know that giving the response to the State of the Union is always kind of a thankless and often meaningless job. And, we don't pay a lot of attention to it usually, but
Thank you.
I mean, what was that? That was like a bad audition for a soap opera.
It was terrible. It was terrible. I basically
what I think was a green screen kitchen behind her. I don't think she was even in a kitchen. The weird intonations all through it of how she was talking. Just what? What was that?
And with all the stuff going on with in vitro fertilization and abortion, they picked somebody from Alabama to be the standard bearer, to pick up the mantle. I thought it was it'll be used as a campaign video for the Democrats. This is what you get. This is what MAGA. This is the capacity of MAGA Republicans.
Also, let's be frank. Who's going to elect Joe Biden if he's reelected? It's women voters.
Yeah. I mean, that was a campaign ad for Biden.
I mean, Biden needs to stop the bleeding he has right now with some Latino and Black voters. He's got to do that. But the people who are going to put him over the top and who did put him over the top in 2020 are women.
Women.
Especially. So.
And there's another group, Joe, and we should spend us some time talking about it in terms of young people and how important it is for them to secure their own future by getting involved in what could be the most pivotal election in our lifetimes and possibly theirs. Why don't you talk a little bit about the voting?
Get involved and be aware. I mean, it's not just casting a vote. You got to also follow what's going on and know what you're voting for, right? One way or the other. If you have a reason to vote for Donald Trump, look, we talk a lot of trash about Donald Trump on this podcast because obviously the two of us don't like him, and that's our personal opinions. But I mean, if you have a reason to vote for him, fine. But know what you're voting for if you vote for Donald Trump. But right, we have this this new initiative, you and I and a couple other people we're working with, both here at Hudson Catholic and at other schools. Where we are really trying to commit ourselves to getting students registered to vote, right? Here in New Jersey, at least, it might be different in other states, but once you turn 17, you can register to vote. You can't actually vote unless you turn 18 before Election Day, but you can register and get that done once you turn 17. So that then when you turn 18, it's kicked in and you're eligible to vote. You got to be 17. You got to live in the place that you plan to vote in at least 30 days before the next election, which isn't an issue for any of our students, presumably, that we're trying to focus on here in New Jersey. They live where they go to school. And that's about it. So we are really trying, you and I, Bill, and like I said, a couple other people, to focus on getting students registered to vote. Again, not to tell them who to vote for. If they want to listen to our podcast, which I don't think any of our students are rushing home and on their way to baseball practice listening to weeks for weeks, but maybe they are. They can hear our personal opinions. I mean, these are personal opinions. This isn't directives. The directive we want to give, as close as we can mean that word, is to get students to register to vote, to do what you're supposed to do as a citizen of this country, which is to have your voice heard, right? We the people is what this country was founded on. We have the say. I had an event here at Hudson Catholic a couple weeks ago for Lincoln's birthday. Our good friends at the Gilder Lehrman Institute in New York City that promotes American history education and civics lent us a brand new exhibit they have about the history of the right to vote. I brought in some of my political memorabilia, made a video and stuff. I can post this to, I'll put this, the video of it up with this episode on anywhere that you get your podcast. So if anybody wants to watch that event, you can watch it. But it was just about the importance of voting, why it's so critical, especially for young people, to have their voices heard and to cast a vote. And that's what we're trying to do, is to get young people registered to vote. So Bill, I don't know what you want to say about this project we have, but
we're going to have a partner up in Morris County, which is an interesting thing. We'll link Hudson County with Morris County. And we're hoping to import this program of getting kids registered to vote, not only in parochial high schools in the Archdiocese of Newark, where Hudson Catholic is, but also in public high schools. I can tell the guidance department at Hudson Catholic is Mr. Cahill has basically going to put up something in the cafeteria with the applications to vote.
Yes, I have the voter registration forms here that we're going to use. I have a whole stack of them. He's going to set up a nice little booth in the cafeteria one day to get our kids registered to vote. A handful registered at the event that I had a few weeks ago, but we're going to get as many as we can.
Yeah, our goal is to get 90% of 90% of them registered. Because I think that's the first important step. And
we can't follow through and drag them to the voting booth in November, but we can do our part, which is getting them registered and on that path to taking part in their democracy.
I think it's a noble endeavor. It's a job worth doing, and I think that what you've done, Joe, is you've basically given them an idea of all the and something you don't take for granted. And you can't know where you're going unless you know where you've been. And I think that the program that you had is, talking about the roots of voting in America. And just think about it, a little over 100 years ago, women weren't allowed to vote in the United States. Think of even when blacks got the right to vote, it took another 100 years for voting legislation in the 1960s to ensure that they did have the right. And I think it's very, very important to honor your roots, number one, to basically take this responsibility seriously, because who you vote for impacts your future. And you have to be involved in it.
And not just at the national level, right? I mean, we talk a lot about
local level.
Elections,
Yeah.
but often it's your local elections that have the more direct impact on your life, setting your property taxes, making sure the garbage is picked up as it's supposed to be. It's all of those things that really directly impact you more. I mean, we spend a lot of time talking about national politics, and they're certainly important in the big picture, but I want kids to also understand that even if there's not a presidential election, right, you want to vote for your city council people, you want to vote for who's going to be the county commissioner, or, depending where you live, that's the structure here in New Jersey. But it's not just voting for president, it's voting for all these other things too that are important. Ballot measures, right? We don't talk much about ballot measures, but whether it's legalizing, I don't know, marijuana, which has been a ballot measure in many states in recent years. But right, legalizing gay marriage was a ballot measure before it happened at the Supreme Court. But even things like land conservation, green open spaces here in New Jersey is a big thing.
That's a big thing in Jersey City with Liberty Park right now.
I mean, you want your voice to be heard on things like that. And voting is the only way to make that happen.
Joe, I'm glad we talked about this, and then let's do a little bit about baseball. We didn't talk about any baseball yet.
Just one last thing. I mean, you watched the video of my event. You weren't able to make it that day, but you watched the video of it. There was nothing partisan about it. It was purely, I want you to vote because it's important. This is not a partisan issue. Getting people to register to vote and vote should not be a partisan issue.
No, and politicians who fear that initiative are the ones that maybe need to be voted out of office.
If you see getting people to vote as a partisan issue, then you're really exposing something else about your political views.
Absolutely.
And I just want to say that. I mean, we're working very different populations, right? The population we serve here in Hudson County at Hudson Catholic, and the people that we're going to be serving by making this connection up in Morris County. Morris County is a Republican-leaning county. It's largely white. It's a very different population. Here in Hudson County, it's a very, very diverse population. It very much leans Democratic. I mean, this is not a partisan thing. We just want to get everybody registered to vote. So
absolutely. And I think by choosing a county that's unlike the one that Hudson Catholic resides in is a good thing, So kudos to you for your project at Hudson Catholic and now exporting it to other schools. I think it's, like I said, it's we're both educators. I mean, to me, this is very worthwhile work.
And I know we have other teachers who listen to this around the country in different places, Pennsylvania, Maryland, elsewhere. This is something you can get involved with. This is not a, centralized event that we're running. We want this to just kind of get out there, that we want teachers to be helping their students to perform their civic duty by getting registered to vote. So if you are a teacher out there anywhere and you listen to our show, please encourage your students to register to vote, those who are eligible, and even those who aren't yet, when they become eligible, urge them to register to vote. That's all we want. We want people to, young people especially, to understand that they have a chance to have their voices heard in our country and take a part in choosing our government. So,
On that
how
point,
about baseball?
yeah, Joe, I'm shaking in my boots. I'm, and by the way,
you mentioned John Cahill, who's our guidance counselor. He's helping us with this voter registration event here. He's also a listener of the show. But he said to me after the last episode, I thought it was a really good episode. Went a little bit off the rails talking about baseball there, but I don't think he's much of a baseball fan, but we are. It's our show, so we're going to talk about what we want.
yeah,
American, then bashing the press.
I need to verbalize my Yankee anxieties with Derek Cole and Judge. I don't think the news with Cole's going to be good. Not because they're basically sending his MRIs to 6 million doctors. Once you're getting second and third opinions, I'm waiting to hear within the next 24 hours. Yeah, he's going to have Tommy John surgery. He's done.
Well, maybe he'll just be day to day for 2 years, like Jed Lowry was for the Mets.
Yeah, remember that? Yeah. And I don't think. I hope that Judge, from what I read in the papers this morning, is that serious. But we'll see. This is gonna hasten the exit. I think at the end of the year, or even during the season, of Yankee manager and Brian Cashman.
The question is for the Yankees, really, if Garrett Cole is out for the long term, does that spur them to sign any of the remaining starting pitchers? Montgomery, former Yankee Jordan Montgomery, or
I don't think Jordan Montgomery wants anything to do with the New York Yankees. I think he didn't like the way he was summarily dismissed and traded.
Yeah.
And I don't think he'd come back at all. I don't think he has any interest in being a Yankee.
I wonder if they would sign Blake Snell, who seems suddenly open to a 1-year contract.
Then what's his name? If they sign Blake Snell to a 1-year contract, say $30 million for a year, okay? That would mean that the Yankees have a luxury tax bill, $63 million.
I was going to bring that up. That's one of the obstacles. Is that
I'm not sure that this Steinbrenner would do that. He runs it like a business.
That's tough when you're basically doubling the amount that you're actually paying a player.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
The Mets would like to sign a designated hitter, I'm sure, a JD Martinez, or even our former baseman JD Davis just got released by the Giants. He's out there. I think he would be a good contributor for the Mets, but we're in the same boat that anybody we sign, it's actually a double the value of the contract because of the luxury tax. Now, JD Davis is not going to be expensive. We could probably get $3 or $4 million.
I'll tell you, if something went south with Judge, I'd be JD Davis, right-handed hitter who really performed extremely well for the Dodgers last year, would be a nice guy to slot in right in back of Soto, in that lineup, but we'll see. I'm just shocked that all those Boras guys who don't have contracts yet, or have, crazy contracts with outs after 1 year. And, I think Boras is just really worn out his welcome with the owners around Major League Baseball.
I think so. Yeah.
It's and it's almost like, I don't say it's collusion. I don't think these guys are talking about it, but I don't think they take kindly to him, and it just turns a lot of
not to be collusion for an owner to just not like a particular agent and not work with him.
No, yeah. I mean, you have to prove it, which would be to prove it would be extremely difficult.
Collusion would require a conspiracy between all the owners to do that. Not just he's worn out his welcome with all the owners, and each of them individually don't want to work with him.
I personally, I think that I think the players are going to get hip to it, with regard to the fact that he's not getting them what they've been promised. Now, I take that back when it comes to Soto next year, because Soto is going to get his money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You know, I mean, you're going to have both the Yankees and the Mets bidding like crazy. And who knows? The Dodgers have all this cap space, all this luxury tax room, you know? Maybe the Dodgers say, yeah, we
Still
want
signing
Soto.
people. They just signed somebody else the other day. I don't remember who, but the Dodgers.
Yeah. They replaced the Yankees as the evil empire. That's for sure. You know, God bless them.
They're moving Mookie Betts to shortstop because they have too many outfielders.
No, second base. Second base.
They were trying second base, and now that they're moving him to shortstop.
You know what? He's an athlete.
Lux, their top prospect, is being bumped because
Okay.
there's top prospects.
No, I'm surprised they haven't dangled those guys, or maybe they will later. But you know, Mookie Betts was a phenomenal deal. I mean, that was the beginning of the end of Chaim Bloom. You know, getting up at Boston, thinking that they could run that franchise like the Tampa Bay team. But I mean, that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, that's you know, and they're not spending any money either, I guess.
On my end, having watched some of spring training and kind of seeing how some of these guys look, you know, I'm cautiously a little more optimistic than the last time we talked. I think our bullpen is going to be good. And the starting pitchers are encouraging to me so far for the Mets, as long as Kodai Senga comes back in May-ish, like they're saying. If Kodai Senga is out till July, then we have no shot. But if he is only out until May or so, you know, mid-May, and if Jose Quintana, who last year got injured for the first time in his career, of course, when he came to the Mets, and Adrian Hauser and a couple of these other guys can pitch the way they're capable, and stay healthy, the Mets have a shot.
How's Tyler McGill's spring?
Not good. Well, actually, his last start, he pitched well, but mixed results.
Yeah,
David Peterson's out all year, so it's really McGill's spot to, you know, we kind of had that three-headed monster of McGill, Peterson, and Joey Lucchesi that we were trying to figure out if one of them could do anything. Lucchesi isn't even really getting a shot. Peterson.
It looks like the ex-Met
McGill's the one that they're banking on.
Going to basically be the opening day starter for the Yankees. You know, actually, he's had the best spring. You know, guy who hated the Yankees. It's great. Money talks.
He does talk. I wouldn't know what that's like as a Catholic school educator, but money does talk.
Well, I used to tell people it's not the salary. I had a friend who taught for 20 some odd years as an adjunct at St. Peter's. He taught in political science there in the evening. And he said, you know what they do? They give you a Bene Merite medal and a lot of plenary indulgences. I asked him, you still got your Bene Merite medal from St. Peter's? He says, yeah, I do. I have it on my desk.
Well, I have another class about to come in, so we've got to wrap this up. But final thoughts for this episode?
Well, you know, I hope that we can basically get back on track with some developments. Hopefully we can talk a little bit about mine, because I was, you know, very, very upset with that ruling that say they'd hear the case, and I just think they're slow playing the whole thing. So I hope we can spend some time
about that last time, but we definitely have more to say about that.
Yeah, and you know, Joe, I think this was a good episode. It was definitely eclectic, and I loved hearing about the pagoda thing. I definitely will watch that on YouTube, and I'll get you your DVR back. But
yeah, it's worth it for everybody out there. Watch Anytown USA. It's entertaining. And it really does show you what how crazy local politics can be. These people are not acting, I assure you. This is really these people being these people, because I know all of them. As always, everybody, thank you for listening. We would love to hear from you as we try to get a little bit more on track of doing some more regular episodes now. Now that some schedules have calmed down a little bit and things. So please do reach out to us. We can be reached at Wigs for Wigs. That is WIGSFORWHIGS @gmail.com. You can send in your thoughts via email, or even send us a voice message that could be featured on a future episode. If you have any questions or comments for us, and you could hear yourself on a future episode of Wigs for Wigs. So there'll be a link for that. Also, I'll put a link up to my event that I had a couple weeks ago, as I mentioned here at Hudson Catholic, about voting rights in the episode description of this episode. So check that out. And we'll see you again very soon for another episode of Wigs for Wigs. Take care, everybody.